okay.
Everything I was accused of was about 2 years ago. You know what I mean? It was 2 years ago, it was a long time away when I started getting off the rails a bit. I got a letter for the board today, and they wanted to know what I was getting charged with. I mean, you need to remember, I've been trying to get my licence back for the best part of 2 years. So for me to wait to just after February, when I know it's a breach of the peace charge, and there was no violence or anything like that, what I was accused of. So, I mean, I have no worries. I mean, I'm sure the Boxing Board of Control will do the right thing and give me my boxing licence back.
But from this moment on, the film I'm making is about to go in a dramatically different direction. It's early February, and Scott's back in Glasgow for his court appearance. He intends to plead guilty to charges of a breach of the peace and resisting arrest, but not to assaulting a policeman, and the case is going to trial.
I think I was a different guy back then to what I'm now. I'm older, wiser, grown up a good bit as well. And I suppose I've learned from my mistakes as well. So if you don't learn, you're a fool, basically, aren't you? So I'm just hoping the courts are lenient today.
In court, I listened to Scott's lawyer argue that his client had gone off the rails due to the pressures of his sport. The sheriff tells him that he should be ashamed of himself and that he'll only find salvation if he stays off the drink. Scott gets 200 hours community service for a breach of the peace and resisting arrest, but crucially is found not guilty of police assault. Cocky and defiant at the result, he can't resist having a go at the media waiting outside the court for him.
So do you leave court today in perhaps a better frame of mind than you entered court this morning? Do you feel that you're now on your way?
Oh, definitely. It's a not guilty verdict, isn't it? So I'm just hoping the press and the media start to give me a break and start to print the truth about Scott Harrison. You know what I mean? And not just the lies all the time. Else you're only Scottish world champion. And still, you still write lies about me. So maybe this time you can give us a break. So, end of the day, believe it, innit? Cheers. Obviously, I'm ashamed of the past 2 years and all the drinking that was involved and all that, and basically been stripped of my world title. End of the day, I've regrouped, and I've come back. So I'm like 2008 started well. I got a not guilty there, so I'm buzzing, feeling good.
Like Scott, I'm sure the boxing board will give him his licence back now. But just as I think the way is clear for him to get back into the ring, another problem that Scott has kept to himself catches up with us. It's a few days after his appearance at Glasgow Sheriff Court, and Scott is becoming increasingly difficult to get hold of. But I finally learnt from his dad that he faces another court case, this time in Spain, for a double charge of assault. According to the national press, who've picked up on the story, if he's found guilty over there, he could be locked up for 10 years. This unexpected turn of events dates back to the autumn of 2006. Out of rehab, Scott needed to get back into the boxing ring if he was going to keep his title. He decamped to Spain to prepare for another fight and took his uncle Jack with him, who worked with Scott as an assistant coach. But they'd only been out there 3 or 4 weeks when he and his uncle got themselves into serious trouble. Following an incident in which Scott crashed his car, they were accused of attacking the driver of another vehicle and then assaulting a Spanish policeman who'd attempted to intervene. When I finally catch up with Scott, he's reluctant to go into detail about what happened that night. Nobody really knows what happened, and you've got all these conflicting newspaper reports about what went on.
I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just thinking about it. I was going to start to talk about what happened there, but I've got a trial coming up in April.
Okay.
And I can't talk about it. Yeah.
What do you feel you can talk about in terms of what you were experiencing and what you were going through?
I'm not going to tell it, no.
Okay. We can keep it brief. Yeah. And just okay.
I'm not going to tell you what happened until after the trial. It's going to be fucking suicidal for me to do that.
Whatever did happen that night in Spain resulted in Scott being locked up in a maximum security prison.
They says I was going to Alarin de la Torre maximum security jail. I'm saying, for what basically? For what? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so eventually we got there and I've said to my uncle, I said, we're in about 3 days, 5 days, time the lawyer gets through and all that. So we get there and he gets to a week, still not 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then you're starting to think, I'm going to be in trouble here trying to make this wait.
After 6 weeks in jail, Scott was finally released, but he still had a World Championship fight lined up, one that he couldn't afford to cancel given that he was on a last chance to keep his title.
I got in bail with the promise I was going to return back, so it was a brilliant moment actually eventually leaving. Alright, it was only 6 weeks, but it was a long 6 weeks when you've got a world title fight, came up 3 weeks after that, and trying to train, so that 6 weeks was like 6 months.
But 6 weeks of prison diet had put him nearly a stone overweight, and with less than 3 weeks to go until his contest, he couldn't shed the pounds in time. He pulled out of the fight, vacated his title, and then his boxing licence was suspended. Days later, he was arrested in the centre of Glasgow and found to be in possession of diazepam. By mid-2007, he was separated from the mother of his children and had been declared bankrupt. His world had completely fallen apart. It's March 2008, a year on from what Scott Harrison must have thought was the lowest point of his life. I've been filming with him for 2 months now, documenting what he and I both thought would be his glorious comeback, but I'm now not convinced that his past is truly behind him. Another couple of weeks have passed, and I still can't get hold of Scott. He's due in Spain for his trial in a week, and I know his training has gone off the boil. Eventually he calls, and I arrange to meet at his house, hoping to get an idea of how his comeback has been affected. But on arrival, he won't let me in. Instead, Scott wants to meet at his church, but then decides he doesn't want to talk to me at all. Scott's Spanish court case has caused a frenzy of tabloid speculation about both him and his Uncle Jack. Suggestions that he's facing 10 years in jail has clearly angered him. I feel as if he's now as suspicious of me as he is the press, and I'm disappointed that the trust I thought I'd established seems to have evaporated. But the reality is that, like me, Scott knows the consequences of his past behaviour are overshadowing his comeback. When he does agree to film again, it's to voice his suspicions that the boxing board are now waiting for the outcome of the court case in Spain before making a decision about his licence.
I think they're just moving the goalposts, and every month it just seems to be something else. I mean, I'd respect them there if they says, no, Scott, you're not getting your licence back. I would actually respect them there. But no, just to basically piss me right off, and it's basically just fucking up my career, to be honest with you.
Have you been tempted to call it a day?
No, because that's what they want me to do. That's what the British Boxing Board of Control want me to do. They want me to just go and retire somewhere. That's basically what they want me to do. It's obvious, isn't it? How do you think I would feel when I'm about 70 and I've retired in my heyday when I was 28, 29, 30, and I've retired and I've got had a lot of good fights left in me. I couldn't live with myself if I couldn't finish off my career. I mean, it's a fantastic career up to date. Pretty much the best record in Scotland. Best boxer Scotland's ever had. Just pretty much annoyed in it, but it's just the way it is, isn't it? It's just what happens.
If Scott's found not guilty in Spain, then his comeback might get back on track. It seems that I'm back in his confidence, and he agrees to let me come with him to Spain.
Cabin crew, that's 10 minutes to landing now. 10 minutes.
It's early April, and we arrive in Malaga the day before Scott's court case. His Uncle Jack, who's also charged with a double assault, is avoiding the trial and any potential sentence. I've not seen Scott for a while, and I'm struck by how changed he is. All the optimism and confidence is gone, and only now does he admit how serious things are.